It's like the numbers are continuing to rise. Now, we don't know exactly what is happening. Is there still conflict that is taking place, or have they totally just taken them to a detention center? We had reports that the ships, the activists, were going to be taken to Haifa, but we're not sure exactly where they are. Are they still in the waters? Have they actually entered Haifa? Or exactly what is going on? Now, reports coming out of Israel is basically saying that they said once they boarded the ships that the activists attacked them and they had no choice but to open fire. They said that they were attacked by knives and they had to open fire. Now, I don't know, we'll have to see exactly what's going on, but it's interesting that the reports that we have is that the ship was still in international waters, well, 150 kilometers.
Exactly. Israeli TV now reporting that the Navy is facing resistance from the activists, and we earlier had our correspondent in Istanbul, Jody Sobral, saying that officials in Turkey have called this event a provocation, suggesting that there may have been arms on board. But of course, this has been ruled out by all the activists and organizers of the aid convoy. Let's turn over now to Beirut, our correspondent Ali Rizk, to get more on this. Ali, and the latest coming in now, an Israeli cabinet minister has voiced his regret at all the fatalities in the Gaza aid ship's takeover. So why should have Israel attacked this ship in the first place when it was in international waters and unarmed?
The important issue to point out to is the number one side which is adversely affected by this event, ironically, is Israel itself. The renowned scholar Noam Chomsky, who was recently in Beirut, said that this Israeli government had made two very extremely irrational acts. Number one was the issue of the Turkish ambassador embarrassing him by sitting him on a level lower than the level of the Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Ayalon when he was summoned to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. The second was the assassination of the Hamas official Mahmoud al-Mabhouh, which led to the expulsion of Israeli diplomats from Australia and from Britain. And I think we could add now number three, this issue which happened today is also considered, I think, another irrational act from this government. So I think it points out to the irrationality, maybe, which certain people describe, of this current Israeli government. But it's also important to say that these convoys actually put Israel in a dilemma. Number one, for Israel to actually resort to such extreme measures and take, of course, tell these commando units, as we understand, Israeli commando units were the ones who boarded these ships, to resort to these measures in order to prevent these convoys from entering means that these convoys are actually having a huge effect, are adversely affecting Israel, maybe by exposing the humanitarian situation. It actually gives more validity to the argument that the humanitarian situation is really dire. For this reason, Israel resorts to these extreme measures to prevent that humanitarian situation from being exposed. On the other hand, if Israel wants to prevent this humanitarian situation from being exposed, it resorts to the measures which we just saw right now. So it really puts Israel in a dilemma which we could call a lose-lose situation, contrary to the win-win situation. So I think that shows how the Israelis are facing a big problem when it comes to the image. As you know, the image has been subject to very severe strikes, whether it be concerning the Goldstone report, or, of course, concerning the assassination attempt in Dubai, which led, as we said, to the expulsion of diplomats. And now, it will be interesting to hear what the White House actually will have to say. Will the White House, for example, adopt the story of Israel's right to self-defense, which we've heard very often from Washington? Now, the U.S. President Barack Obama, who, according to many, has had his fair share of disagreements with the Netanyahu government, what is the stance he will take on this issue? Obama himself, if you recall, is someone who has worked very much on trying to improve America's own image when it comes to attempting to close down Guantanamo or to stop waterboarding. So he's someone who really is concerned with the issue of image and trying to improve the image of state conduct. So what will what's the stance he'll take concerning this particular issue in light of the usual traditional support which the U.S. shows for Israel? So as we said, a big dilemma, I think, this for the Israelis. Do not forget that Turkey is an important ally for the U.S. It's also part of the NATO, and it's even a very important regional partner for Israel, it's said. So if you look at it from all angles, Israel, number one, first and foremost, in addition to the families, of course, of those who lost their lives, is the number one loser in this whole issue. Of course, as we said, it was lost if it allowed this convoy to enter, but I think it loses even more by taking such acts and allowing these commando units to go on board, or ordering these commando units to go on board these ships and do what they did. So a very important issue to focus on is that Israel has further tarnished its already tarnished image by performing this act.
Exactly, Adi, and the question is, what was it fearing from these ships that it did launch such an attack itself, saying that at least 16 people were killed in these attacks? Other reports, unconfirmed reports, saying that up to 25, 24 people have been killed in these attacks.
Well, what pushed Israel, as we said, is the fact that these convoys are actually having an effect. If you do know that this is not the first time that these convoys have been sent, and it seems that Israel wants to put a stop to this, because the simple fact is that these convoys are exposing the humanitarian situation and are bringing about more sympathy to the situation in Gaza, are giving more validity to the argument that Gaza is actually a prison cell. For this reason, Israel is going to these extreme measures to put a stop to this, because I think that Israel feels that these convoys are exposing the real situation to the rest of the world. You have to recall that many of these people, many of these activists are Americans, Westerners, even former Congress people. So, of course, these people can spread the word when they go back to their countries, and this creates more sympathy towards the Palestinians, and hence creates more enmity in the international community towards the Israeli conduct. So I think the main reason which pushed these people, or which pushed the Israeli government to take these measures, is the fact that they fear that these convoys are having a huge effect, are adversely affecting Israel's image, and something had to be done to stop this. But the main point is that the measures which were taken to put a stop to this even will take a heavier toll on Israel's image.
Okay, Ali Rizka, thanks very much for joining us there live from Beirut. We know the latest responses to this attack, Hamas saying that it's a crime against humanity, calling for intervention to stop it, and Turkey summoning its the Israeli envoy in Ankara over the issue, and a huge public protest there in Istanbul.
Yeah, Homa, you know, we had such a range of people